Allah is my heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this new program of Ask Huda, broadcasting live from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Before we get your calls, we will take some of the emails that have come to the program's email last week. And the first email is from Brother Sani Tambia. And he says, Assalamu alaikum, I'm driving a truck, and while people sat on the top of the truck, unexpectedly, an electric cable that crossed the road loosed down and hooked one of them down, and he died on the way to hospital. Do I need to perform the fasting? Now, may Allah have mercy on all Muslims who die in such tragic accidents. The reason the brother is asking, because in Islam, if someone is killed accidentally, the killer, the person who was responsible for such an accident, if it is his mistake, then he should give expiation. And the expiation is, he must free a slave. A believing Muslim slave should be freed. And he has to also, as well, give blood money to the relatives of the deceased. If he is unable to free a slave, the blood money is there. He has to pay it, whether they take it or if they have the mercy in their hearts and they would like to forgive and pardon, this is up to them. As for the free slave, this is for the sake of Allah. He has to free a believing slave. If there isn't any Muslim slave to be freed, in this case, Islam tells him that he has to fast 2 consecutive months. And this so that Allah Azza wa Jal would repent over him. Now, if you look at this situation, we find that the brother is talking about an incident where he's driving a truck and there are people on top of his truck. If the rules and regulations of the country he's in forbids this and considers this to be something that is not legal, in this case it is his fault, it is his mistake for breaking the law, and hence he has to fast these 2 consecutive months. But if this is the norm, as in the case where we find people in rural areas, in Africa, in Southeast Asia, for example, where there isn't any traffic laws, and this is the only means of transportation for people, that they get on top of a truck and it takes them from some place to the other. And if this driver did not do any mistake, in this case he is not obliged to fast any months at all. The second question is from Eddie. Eddie is asking about a case that's happening with him and with his friends. And that is, they attend a circle of knowledge. And the leader or the teacher of this circle, after giving his lecture, they pray to Allah Azza wa Jal, and they invoke Allah and they make dua. And everybody says Ameen. So he's asking, is this permissible or not? And the answer is, if their gathering is for this lecture and this for dars and not for the congregational dua, in this case it is permissible inshallah, and there's nothing wrong in that. But if they gather simply for the sake of dua, then in this case this is not permissible. And it is recommended, highly recommended, that the sheikh himself or the imam himself would alternate. So he does not every single time they meet, he makes dua and they raise their hands and say Ameen, because this was not the doing of the Prophet ﷺ on each and every occasion. And doing it alternately, inshallah, takes it out of the fear of falling into bid'ah. The third question is from Muhammad Razwi Khan. And the brother is asking about a situation he is faced with. And he's saying that he came from Medina with his 8 months pregnant wife. May Allah Azza wa Jal grant them a healthy and practicing child. And they came with the intention of Umrah. And when they came to Mecca, of course she made ihram from Medina. As we know, the location of ihram or the miqat for the people of Medina is Dhul Hulayfa, now known as Abyar Ali. So she made this and she prayed 2 rak'ahs for ihram and they went to Mecca. The minute they arrived in Mecca, she had this severe pain that prevented her from walking. So, is it compulsory upon them to give a dam, to slaughter a sacrifice for this? Well, this depends. To answer this question, we have to know that the minute a person enters in the state of ihram, he is not allowed to break that state of ihram until he accomplishes and finishes his ritual, which is either Umrah or Hajj. If he doesn't, then he is still in the state of ihram. A lot of the people come with the state of ihram, they reach Mecca, and they find it a lot too crowded, more crowded than they have anticipated. So they just say, well, khalas, I'm not going to make my Umrah. They take off their ihram, they wear their normal clothes as if nothing had happened. And this is wrong. Once you say, labbaik Allahumma Umrah, once you intend Umrah, you have to fulfill it. Unless, in 2 conditions. Either you make a condition. So if she was fearful for her health, and she was afraid that it might not be possible for her to continue, she would make a condition. And she would say, labbaik Allahumma Umrah. But if something would to come up that would prevent me from continuing my Umrah, then I have the right to take off my ihram and assume my normal life. In this case, if she did make this condition, known as al-ishtirat, in this case, alhamdulillah, once she got this pain and she could not walk, she could simply get out of the state of ihram without need of slaughtering anything or cutting her hair. As for the second condition that is allowed for a person to leave the state of ihram, is when he is prevented from doing it, known as al-ihsar. If a person is prevented from completing his rituals, Umrah or Hajj, and he's prevented, not it's an obstacle or something that it is delayed for a day or 2, he is completely prevented from doing it. In this case, he is allowed or she is allowed to slaughter a sheep as a sacrifice and shave the head for a man or shorten it for a lady or a woman. In her case, in the sister's case, if she was unable to walk, but she recovered a day or 2 later on, she must stay in her state of ihram. If it is possible for people to carry her, put her on a wheelchair and make the tawaf and the sa'i on a wheelchair, this is also recommended and this is what she has to do. But if the pain continued and she could not at all stay in the haram area and she was rushed into hospital, and the doctor said she has to take a week or two off, and then afterwards she delivered and she gave birth. In this case, she is considered to be prevented from finishing her Umrah, and therefore she can slaughter, inshallah, and there is nothing more for her to do. But whenever she can, she will make up for that Umrah, inshallah. We have a caller. Afroj from Saudi Arabia. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Kif halak?
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine. I'd appreciate it if you turn off your TV. I'm hearing the echo and I'm unable to understand you.
Yeah, I reduced the sound.
Yes, what can I do for you, brother? And if you raise your voice a little bit, or the brothers in the control room, if you can raise the volume a little bit so I can hear in the studio.
Yeah.
Yes, what's your question, brother?
Yeah, my question is, my working hours is from 7 a.m. in the morning until 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. in the evening.
Okay.
When I come back home, I'm very tired. I feel very tired. It's very difficult for me to go to Isha prayer and pray in the masjid. Even when I go there, I feel very drowsy and sleepy. In that kind of situation, is it possible for me to pray at home?
Well, okay. Any more questions?
No, only this question.
Okay, I'll answer this for you, inshallah. The brother is asking about a situation that we are all faced with, and that is, we come back home from work, those who work 9 hours, 10 hours a day, and they are shattered. They are exhausted. So they pray Maghrib and they go back home, find the supper being served, they eat and they fill their stomachs, and once they do this, they feel drowsy and they have this urge to sleep. So he's asking, is it permissible for me to pray in the house? And the answer was by our Prophet ﷺ. A blind man came to him, and the hadith is in Sahih Muslim. And he complained and said, "O Prophet of Allah, I'm a blind man. My house is far, and I don't have anyone suitable for me to lead me to prayer. Is it permissible for me to pray home?" The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, "Do you hear the adhan?" And the man said, "Yes, I do." And the Prophet said, "I don't find any excuse for you. You have to attend the prayer in the masjid." Now remember, this is a blind man. So your excuse of feeling the fatigue and being exhausted, this is not a cause that allows you to pray in the house. Besides, a lot of the Muslims, and if I say 90% of them, I would not be exaggerating, a lot of the Muslims would use the same excuse to skip Fajr prayer. And if every one of us had a similar excuse, you will find the masjids, the mosques, deserted. And if we desert the masjids, then Allah's wrath would fall upon us. Therefore, the answer is no, you have to fight your urge of sleep and drowsiness, and you have to believe that whatever agility and strength you find in yourself, it is not because of your 6 or 8 or 10 hours of sleep. It is because of Allah Azza wa Jal. I know people who sleep 12 hours a day, and they are among the laziest on earth. But I also know people who sleep only literally 4 hours a day. And Allah Azza wa Jal has blessed their health, has blessed their work, and has blessed them with a lot of health and agility and productivity in their work. Therefore, trust Allah and do what you have to do, and Allah Azza wa Jal would give you the health, the wealth, and the power to move on and progress in your life. I believe we have a break, so stay tuned, and inshallah we will be right back.
knows, today Arabic is considered as very important, very significant language. How can we produce the sound, the state of voicing, place of articulation, the manner of articulation? So in Arabic, the words which are written are pronounced.
We will learn how to write and pronounce Arabic letters correctly in depth. Explanation via board and presentation with many other important factors.
And we have today more than 300 million people speak Arabic language. Not only in the Middle East, but you can find a lot of people speak Arabic language in Asia, Europe, North America, and in South America.
What are you waiting for? Grab your notebook and pencil and stay tuned for Learn Arabic at Huda TV. Ark of Noah.
We're going to be mentioning the significance of the Ark of Noah.
Knowledge is the essence of everything. Once you get the knowledge, then it generates the desire and the motivation, and then it brings about the action.
And we're going to be discussing the state of the Ummah and the division which unfortunately has appeared in it, and the methodology of trying to arrive at the right path.
Your system of knowledge or your system of motivation are hit by any of these threats, you will definitely go astray and you will be suffering from a disease in the heart.
We're also going to be discussing what Allah wants from us.
How can we make that? Allah gave us the revelation. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing first and foremost the companions. If they believe in what you have believed in, then they are guided. So the real guidance is what the Prophet ﷺ and the companions were upon.
Join Sheikh Mutassim in the program Ark of Noah and discover the answers to these questions.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Brother Ismail, I believe, is with us from Saudi Arabia.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, my question is regarding house helps in the house. I am aware that there are ahadith that specify certain requirements for women traveling on journeys that are out of town. Now, sometimes we require housemaids, and some of these maids come from other countries like Indonesia, Philippines, and other places like that. Mm-hmm. Is it permissible in this case for you to arrange for a housemaid knowing that she's going to have to travel without a mahram? I'd like to know what's the ruling on this.
Okay. Any more questions, Brother Ismail?
That is all. That will be all for now. Jazakumullah khair.
The brother is asking about a typical situation that happens a lot in the Middle East, where people, because they have the tendency to work and maybe gain a little bit more money than other countries, they tend to find extra money to spend. So what they do is, they, out of their care for their families, for their wives and daughters, not knowing that this corrupts them, but out of their good intention, they bring maids into their houses. So the question is, what's the ruling on a woman traveling without a mahram? And the Prophet ﷺ is the one who gave us the ruling. And he said, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, it is not permissible for a woman who believes in Allah and the day of judgment and the last day to travel without a mahram. So the Prophet gave us the answer, alayhi salatu wasalam. One would argue and say, okay, Sheikh, I did not force her to come. She came with her free will. So she is the one who is sinful, where I am not. And the answer would be, it is a matter of collaboration. You collaborated with her, you're the one who gave her the ticket money, you're the one who gave her the visa, you're the one who allowed the authorities to give her the permission to come and work in your house for a year or two, therefore you are the one who's sinful. So the answer is, no, it is not permissible for women to come and work without a mahram. Whether they're maids, whether they're hostesses, whether they're nurses, whether they're of any occupation, unless they have their mahram with them, it is forbidden for them to travel. And this is not from my point of view. This is the Prophet's saying, alayhi salatu wassalam. A man stood up when the Prophet said this. And he said, "O Prophet of Allah, my wife went for Hajj, but my name was drawn and I'm going for jihad on an expedition of so and so." So the Prophet told him, alayhi salatu wassalam, "Go and catch your wife and go with her, accompany your wife. Leave jihad, leave the expedition and go and accompany your wife." Notice that the Prophet ﷺ, who is the most knowledgeable person on earth of what Allah wants and what Allah instructs us of, he did not ask the man, "Is your wife beautiful or ugly?" He did not ask the man, "Is your wife old or young?" He did not ask him if she was alone or she was in the company of trustworthy women and people in general. She might have been in a caravan. People say nowadays it's permissible for a woman to travel if she is traveling in an airplane. Nobody is going to jump on her when she's on an airplane, especially if her father takes her to the airport and her brother receives her from the arrival terminal in the other destination. The Prophet did not ask any of these questions, which means that it is totally forbidden for a woman to travel without a mahram. The other question from Muhammad Nawras, he's saying that the brother is a doctor and he works in a military hospital in the Middle East and he does not state the country. And he's saying that due to the shifts and due to the unrest in that country, he has to remain in the hospital. And they don't have a mosque in that camp or in that facility. And therefore their commander forbids them from leaving to pray in a nearby masjid. And he's asking, is it permissible for me to watch the TV when they broadcast Friday prayer live from the capital where I am? Is it permissible for me to face the Qibla and to pray behind the Imam when they pray with the congregation? And the answer is no, this is not permissible. Why is that not permissible, though the brother is actually praying on time and the prayer is few kilometers away from him? So it should be acceptable. The answer is, what is the name of the prayer? It's called Jum'ah prayer, which means Friday prayer. And what is the condition for Friday prayer? The condition is that it is to be prayed in congregation. So, would we say that you, in your hospital, you are praying with the congregation? No. The same thing happens when people pray in their balconies and the masjid is about 500 meters away from them. And they pray in their houses or in their balconies, saying that we are following the Imam. We can hear the Imam giving takbir, doing sujood. We offer all of this with him. So is their prayer valid? The answer is no. One of the conditions for your prayer to be valid is that you pray with the congregation. So you have to be in the masjid. If the masjid is fully packed, then the rows extend to the outer gates of the masjid, and then to the streets of the masjid, and then to the nearby houses, and the rows are connected. Then in this case, yes, you can pray with them because the congregation is so big that you are praying outside of the masjid. The same thing happens in Haram, in Mecca for example. The Muslims pray inside the Haram, on the roofs of the Haram, when it's crowded, on the open plaza outside of the Haram, on the streets surrounding the Haram, even on top of the hills overseeing these rows, because all the rows are connected and they are considered to be one unit in the same congregation. But never ever it is allowed to pray in your home with the air conditions on. Even if you turn them off, it's the same thing. But it's not permissible for you to pray in your home with the masjid or with the live broadcast in your city in another location. This is not permissible. Brother Muhammad, from a country that he does not want to disclose, sent me an email, and this email is quite disturbing, unfortunately. He is saying that I am following the Quran and the Sunnah, and this is not going or doing so well with my father. My father is an extremist, but on the dark side, unfortunately, in the sense that he believes in grave worshipping. He believes in the power of walis or awliya, of the deceased, of the dead people, who people think and believe that they are righteous. He believes in the power of ta'weedha, or as they call it, ta'viza, and this is amulets and the likes. So his mother is suffering from what they think to be black magic, and he gives her ruqya, but her father, his father, is so controlling, and he has a very short temper, and he does not accept anything from his son. He fought with him so many times, he struggled with him so many times, and the father is adamant. He beats his wife so that she wears these amulets, and he opened so many of them, and all what he saw was scribbles and drawings and nothing that anyone could comprehend or understand. And he says that the funny part is that this is only for diagnosis and exploration, and it's not the actual cure, so to say. And unfortunately, he had so many struggles and fights with his father, and he doesn't know what to do. So what is the advice? Well, we have a caller from Kuwait, Abu Safiya.
Abu Safwan.
Abu Safwan.
Yes, please.
Wa alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, I have a question. Last year I went for Umrah with my family. So when I had Niyyah for Umrah, so I performed Umrah.
Okay.
Then I went to Medina to Munawwara.
Okay.
Then I come back to Makkah to visit my niece, but I had no intent to perform Umrah.
Okay.
So I come to Makkah back to see my niece, my sister's daughter. I stay with her, and without any harm or anything. But we went to Haram and we prayed. And also we performed, this Tawaf al-Ziyarah as well. So because I had no intent for second Umrah, but I crossed the Miqat, so how the Sharia, applies here? I have a little confusion about.
Okay,
Could you kindly answer me, please?
Did you perform Umrah or not yet?
No, I performed Umrah. One Umrah I performed, then I went to Medina. Then I come back again to Makkah to visit
your niece,
sister's daughter.
Okay, what did you do after visiting her? Did you make your Umrah or you went back to Kuwait?
No, I went back to Kuwait because I had already performed one Umrah.
I wish you called me. I would have given you an answer and saved you the call. Anyhow, thank you for your call. I'll answer you. Do you have another question?
No, that's all.
Okay,
because,
brother.
So is there anything wrong, or what is the condition?
I will answer you, brother Abu Safwan.
Okay, thank you.
Jazakum, hayyak Allah, bro. The issue of performing Umrah or performing Ihram, the Prophet ﷺ designated a number of places, and we know them as miqat, and the plural is mawaqit. So he designated Dhul Hulayfa or Abiyar Ali for those living in Medina. He designated Yalamlam, or known as Sa'diyya, for those coming from the south, from Yemen, etc. He designated Al-Juhfa, known now as Rabigh, for those coming from the north, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, Egypt, from the west, from UK, from USA, from Europe generally. So the Prophet gave us a description of these mawaqit, all 5 of them. And he said whoever comes from outside of this ring, he must offer ihram when he approaches the miqat. And this is the norm. So what happens if someone comes and offers ihram and makes umrah and then wants to make another umrah? This is inshallah what we will answer after the break. So stay tuned, and inshallah we will be right back.
The tension there, what about the North Korean nuclear program and the six-party talks? How will the tension there affect a relationship between US and China?
They did that early in 1993, and after long discussion and negotiation, finally they stopped the program.
Will the world be able to stop this flow of secrets? Will it affect international relations? Or will there simply basic known facts for most experts and most diplomats?
And we don't know if there's more to come. It's information war.
Dear viewers, Huda programs can be watched in the English section of the in-flight entertainment directory on board all Saudi airline flights, domestic and international. Sit back, relax and enjoy watching Huda's entertaining and enlightening shows on your trip. Huda wishes you a safe and successful journey. Huda, a light in every home.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. The question of Abu Safwan from Kuwait, as we've said, if someone comes from outside of the mawaqit and he offers umrah and he remains in the area inside the mawaqit, such as in Jeddah, in Mecca, when he wants to make another umrah, he makes it from wherever he is. So for the brother, when he went to visit his niece in Mecca, he should have offered umrah and he should have made his ihram from what is known as al-hil. He has to leave the haram area and go to at-Tan'im, go to Ashmesi, go to Ash-Shara'i', any area that is outside the haram, and the closest is the Tan'im, known as Masjid Aisha. He should have gone there, made his intention of ihram, and then make his umrah and without any problem, alhamdulillah. Therefore, I wish he had asked before going back to Kuwait, but now inshallah he knows the ruling on that. Going back to Brother Muhammad, who is having problems with his father, who is believing in things that may endanger his Islam. In Islam, the main pillar that differentiates Islam from other religions is Tawheed. And without Tawheed, there is no Islam. And what Brother Muhammad's father is doing is contradicting Islam. It's nullifying Islam by these beliefs. Even if he prays, fasts, and offers Umrah and Hajj, it nullifies Islam. We have Sister Hafsa on the line from Nigeria. Assalamu alaikum. Well, we had her, and I hope she calls back again. So, Brother Muhammad, your father is committing a grave sin and a breach of Islam. If you can win his heart by tuning down your way of talking to him so that it would be respectful, it would be kind and nice, this is the win-win situation, because you don't have any other alternative. You may not shout at him, you may not call him names, you may not do anything to harm him or to be disrespectful to him, even if he is a mushrik. Allah tells us in the Quran in 2 locations that if your parents are ordering you to commit shirk, you have to be kind and tolerant to them, but do not obey them when they order you to disobey Allah Azza wa Jal. So in this case, what your father is doing is completely out of the question. Wearing amulets is forbidden in Islam. If it has Quran written on it, the most authentic opinion, it is not permissible. If it has others, humbo jumbo stuff that do not relate to Islam, then definitely this is major shirk and associating others with Allah Azza wa Jal. Because through this amulet, you are seeking the help of other than Allah. Uqba ibn Amir, may Allah be pleased with him, if I may recall correctly, in the authentic hadith, he reports or he narrates that 10 men came to the Prophet ﷺ to accept Islam, to revert to Islam. And the Prophet took the pledge of allegiance from 9 of them. And the 10th, he refused. So they said, "O Prophet of Allah, why didn't you take the pledge of allegiance from our friend?" He said, "Because he was wearing an amulet." So the man took the amulet and turned it away, and then the Prophet took the pledge of allegiance from him. Abu Safwan once again from Kuwait. Assalamu alaikum, bro.
Hello, Sheikh. Assalamu alaikum. Sorry to bother you, but my question is, since I made a mistake, so what is the kafara?
What was your mistake?
Inshallah, next month, inshallah, I'll be going for Umrah, if Allah will. So what is the kafara for this? Because I made a mistake.
What is your mistake, brother?
Yeah, you said, because I crossed miqat without ihram.
Yes, you told me you did the first. You're talking about the first Umrah?
Yeah, no, I did the first Umrah. The second Umrah, because I went to see my niece. So, but I was not in ihram, so I have not performed Umrah.
No problem.
So, is there any kafara?
No. Now, as long as you did not make a Umrah, you did not make ihram, you have no problem. I'll give you an example. If you come next week, inshallah, and visit me in Jeddah, and we go together to Mecca just to pray Maghrib and Isha, and come back and you travel back again to Kuwait, is there anything wrong in what you have done?
No, that's what I did.
No.
I made a mistake.
There is nothing wrong in this. You're not forced, whenever you come and visit Mecca, it is not mandatory for you to make Umrah. You can enter Mecca 6, 7, 10 times without making any ihram or Umrah, alhamdulillah.
Okay, thank you. Jazakallah. Thank you.
Wajazak, brother. Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Going back to Brother Muhammad's question, and it's extremely important. The most important thing in my life and your life is that we believe in the oneness of Allah. We believe in the pure Tawheed. Without Tawheed, we're not Muslims. And this is why Allah says in the Quran, وَمَا يُؤْمِنُ أَكْثَرُهُمْ بِاللَّهِ إِلَّا وَهُمْ مُشْرِكُونَ. And the majority of them would not believe in Allah except while associating others with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you look at the number of Muslims in the whole world that associate others with Allah, you will be shocked. In some countries, there are more than 30,000 graves that are being worshipped with Allah Azza wa Jal. 30,000. You visit these places, God forbids, and you see people rubbing the walls of the grave, slaughtering sheep for the sake of the deceased, who they call wali. They go for him and they write notes asking for a child or to their debts to be paid or for the health of their parents. They're asking other than Allah. This is major shirk. These people are not Muslim. Who does this is not a Muslim. Even if he prays, fasts, gives charity, offers hajj, the main pillar of Islam is that he should have Tawheed. If they don't have Tawheed, their Islam is void. It's nullified by what they had done. So look anywhere in the world. Look at the amount of people who would call whom they call saints. Excuse me. For example, you'd find people calling Al-Badawi, Al-Tijani, Al-Jilani, and they are calling them to uplift a calamity. They're calling them to bring them benefits. Who does this except Allah Azza wa Jal? The Prophet himself, as Allah tells us in the Quran, The Prophet ﷺ tells us in the Quran, I do not have for myself any benefit, and I can prevent not myself from any harm. So if the Prophet himself cannot prevent harm from himself and cannot bring benefit for himself, how could these saints do anything similar to that? Brother Farouk from Nigeria, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. My question is, if someone should use haram money to start a business,
is what?
If somebody should use haram money to start a business, example, maybe money you get from bribe.
Okay.
If he uses it to start a legitimate business.
Okay.
Is the profit he gets from such business haram? Even if the business is legitimate, is the profit he gets haram because he used haram money to start the business?
Okay. I think I get your question. Any more questions?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
No,
Brother Farouk is asking about the ruling on haram money. If someone earned haram money and then he invested it and he got profit out of it, is this profit halal for him or not? Scholars have different opinions regarding this situation, and the most authentic and acceptable opinion would be that you're only entitled for what the likes of you would get as a salary when they work in such a place. For example, someone embezzled €1,000,000 and he invested these €1,000,000 in making a company for transportation. So he bought himself a number of trucks and he started the business leasing these trucks, transporting goods from one place to the other, and he's running the show. And he's earning money. What is his right and lawful amount from this profit? If he makes €100,000 a year, well, if this is the case, and this is the profit he gets, scholars say that he is not entitled to take any of this profit. The only thing he's entitled to take is, we would look in the market for a GM of such a company. What would his salary be? If they tell us it would be probably €50,000 a year. So in this case, we tell him, you're only entitled for 50,000, and the other is haram on you. You have to dispose of it in halal means, in charity, in helping sick people, in building mosques, in things that are acceptable and charitable. But you are not allowed, by no means, to keep this money. So those who hit hard and make a lot of money through haram ways and think that, okay, now we're 40, we relax and sit back and enjoy, this is not permissible at all for them to utilize. I believe we have Abu Saud from Saudi.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, bro.
I have two questions regarding the women's issues, Sheikh.
About?
Can women go to the mosque during the menses to be a part of the study circle?
Okay. Any more questions, brother?
The other question is, is the woman allowed to go with the groups, with this circle for Umrah as an institution?
Can you repeat this question again, please?
The institute is taking the students for Umrah. Want the women to Makkah for performing Umrah.
From where? Where from?
From Saudi Arabia, Jeddah.
Yeah, from Jeddah. So women traveling to Mecca for Umrah.
Yeah.
Without a mahram.
Yeah, without a mahram.
Okay, I'll answer you, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair.
Jazak. The brother is asking about the ruling on women on their menses entering a masjid. What's the ruling on that? Well, there are details, and we will not go into details because this takes a lot of your time, and you usually would like to have the most authentic answer possible. I'll give you the answer, inshallah, after the break, so stay tuned.
concepts of Islamic economics? How is it different from the Western theories?
And the beauty about Islam is not that it just came as a religion to perfect the relationship of the servant of Allah with Allah, but also it came to perfect the relationship of the servant of Allah with others. The beauty about Islam, Islam comes and brings the interest of the public and the interest of the individual together.
How is Islamic banking different from the traditional banking system?
The concept of riba is that I lend you money, I give you a loan, in return that you give me back that loan with an extra at the top.
The idea of the stock market itself is halal or haram.
So these are the main conditions that the scholars put with regards of the share market.
Let's talk.
So this is something that you have to point out to them in the Bible.
Something which is, I think, very rarely needed by the youth, which is staying firm on the truth.
This is just one of the greatest examples for me of how to control your anger.
Within the framework of being the cleanest religion, the cleanest jurisprudence, and in the meantime, the kindest religion to animals.
Watch Let's Talk with Khalil Amanet as he interviews guests and discusses a variety of topics, everything from youth issues to religious issues. Join us here on Huda TV.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I believe Sister Hafsa is with us from Nigeria. Assalamu alaikum. Two. This is strike two. So last chance, inshallah. Well, I hope it's not the last. Abu Zubair asked about the ruling on a woman in her menses entering the masjid for the sake of attending a circle of hifz al-Quran, memorizing the Quran, or learning the knowledge. So what's the ruling on that? And I've heard a lot of the imams of the masjid allowing this. Well, the most authentic opinion of scholars, and this is backed by ample and authentic evidences, that it is not permissible for a woman in her menses to enter a masjid. Either to stay there, whether to stay there, or to learn from the circles being given there. And one of the most famous evidences backing this opinion is when Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, was in her menses and the Prophet was offering i'tikaf. He was staying in the masjid for 10 days, which people do at the last 10 nights of Ramadan. And he asked her to give him a piece of cloth, a towel. So she said, and we know that the Prophet's house was adjacent to the mosque. So the only difference between the house and the mosque was a piece of a curtain that was considered to be a door. So the Prophet called Aisha and said, give me that piece of cloth. So Aisha said, O Prophet of Allah, I'm in my menses. And the Prophet said, I know. Your menses is not in your hand. Meaning that all what you will be doing is giving it to me. So this is permissible because entering your hand is not entering the masjid with your body. And this is one of the most famous evidences stating that from this hadith, it is not permissible for a woman to enter the masjid while in her menses. Brother Tayyib from Al-Urdun, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How are you?
Alaikum salam wa barakatuh. I'm fine. Jazakallah khair for asking.
Sheikh, I have two questions.
Okay.
The first question is, how do you see paying zakat to the descendants of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
Giving the zakat to the descendants, meaning Ahl al-Bayt?
Ahl al-Bayt.
Okay.
And the second question is, what is the ruling for the women to go and eat in the restaurant?
Okay.
Okay, these are my two questions.
I'll answer this, inshallah.
Thank you.
Going back to question number two of Brother Abu Zubair from Saudi, he's asking about the ruling on women going for Umrah with their students from Jeddah to Mecca without a mahram. In the view of our scholars, it is not permissible for a woman to travel without a mahram. This is something that was earlier established, and it's inshallah understood by all practicing Muslims who follow the Prophet ﷺ. Others who don't follow the Prophet ﷺ may differ with this opinion. We could care less, because this is a difference that would not be accepted from people to go against the teaching of the Prophet ﷺ. But before we continue, Sister Hafsa, for the last and third time, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi.
How are you, sister? What can I do for you?
Please, I would like to inquire about IVF, this assisted reproduction.
About what?
IVF, assisted reproduction.
I could not understand you, sister. Can you explain it?
Yes, this new method of assisted reproduction, whereby the egg from the woman is collected and the sperm from the husband and mixed together. When it's fertilized, it's now being put back into the womb of the woman.
Okay. Any more questions?
I would want to know its found in Islam.
Okay. Any more questions?
So that's it for now.
Okay. Jazakumullah khair. So Abu Zubair's question, traveling without a mahram is not permissible. However, the distance between Jeddah and Mecca, the people of Jeddah and Mecca don't consider it to be traveling, because it's like a neighborhood of each other. So in Jeddah, it is permissible for women to travel with a trustworthy driver to Mecca to make Umrah and to come back. This is not traveling. When we go to Mecca, we don't shorten prayer, we don't combine prayers, because sometimes we go twice in a day. It's almost 80 kilometers away, so we don't consider it to be traveling. Therefore, it is permissible for students to go with their teachers, female teachers, without a mahram, as long as they're trustworthy, inshallah. Brother Tayyib from Jordan, he's asking about the ruling on giving zakat to the descendants of the Prophet ﷺ. This is forbidden. It is not permissible to give zakat, which is the filth of the money of the people, to the descendants of the Prophet ﷺ, providing that the Muslim governments are giving the descendants of the Prophet ﷺ what is lawfully theirs. They have a portion of Bayt al-Mal, of the treasury of the Muslims, and they have to have their portion of it if they're in need. If the governments are not doing this right, then it would not be fair for us to say, don't give them the zakat, and they're not taking what's lawful theirs from the treasury of the Muslims, so let them die. No. Shaykh Islam ibn Taymiyyah and also the other scholars of Islam say, in this case, it becomes permissible for them to take from the zakah, because if it's permissible for me once I'm hungry and I'm about to die to eat from a pig or from a donkey or from a dead meat, they are more in need for that than me. As for the second question, the ruling on women eating in restaurants, if the restaurant is well protected and the women are covered properly, I see no point in preventing them, alhamdulillah, as long as they're taking good care of themselves and there are no means of fitna or no harm on them from people who do not fear Allah Azza wa Jal. Brother Abdullah from Saudiya, he's lost in communication. I hope he calls back again. So there is nothing wrong, inshallah, in women properly covered, properly dressed, properly behaving to go to restaurants and have a good meal. Going back to Brother Muhammad's initial question, it is extremely important to fix your aqeedah, to fix your creed, to fix your tawheed. If you slaughter to other than Allah, even if you slaughter to the Prophet ﷺ, and if you say this is for the Prophet ﷺ, this is shirk. if you go to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ and you communicate with him, "O Prophet of Allah, do this for me, do that for me, grant me a child, help my poor people, give away this or that," this is shirk. This is associating others with Allah. The Prophet himself does not have the means of bringing benefit to himself nor preventing harm from himself, as Allah tells us in the Quran. So if you don't believe in the Quran and if you don't believe in the Sunnah, what do you believe in? Till when are you going to continue associating others with Allah? Till when are you going to ask a saint to uplift a calamity from you, knowing that the saint cannot hear you? People say that the Prophet ﷺ hears us in his grave. And the funniest thing I've heard is one of them so-called scholars claiming that if you give salutation and salat to the Prophet ﷺ 500 times a day, you will not die until you see the Prophet ﷺ live. Not in your dreams, live. What kind of nonsense is this? He goes on to say that once I did this for a whole year, and then I went to Medina to visit the grave of the Prophet ﷺ. And once I was there, a hand came out reaching for me from the grave. It was the hand of the Prophet ﷺ, and he was giving me the pledge of allegiance. And one of the people listening to this astonishing story said, "What did you do?" And he said, "I shook hands with him." And he said, "And did you let go?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Are you crazy? The Prophet shook hands with you, and he's alive, and he's able to shake hands with you. Why didn't you pull him out so that he could solve all the problems we have?" And the guy was speechless. He could not answer. He could not say, no, he's not alive. How could I pull him out? And he could not say that, well, I was lying. I didn't shake anybody's hands. And the most possible way out is to say, yes, this was shaitan who was shaking your hands, or you were a liar. You have to fix your creed. Go back to the Quran and Sunnah. Stop following those who claim to be scholars, and they're taking you out of the loop of Islam by worshipping graves, by worshipping saints, by thinking in everyone except in Allah the Almighty. I'm afraid that this is all the time we have. Until we meet next time, fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allah is my heart's speech. Your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance and